Good day, lovely folks. How's it going? I just thought I'd do a quick video because I've been getting myself all confused about Winchester, Westminster, Chichester, the Old Minster, Hamsey, Clove Show. So I'm trying to get it in my head. So the question I was asking was, where was Parliament held before Westminster? That question doesn't get answered on the internet. I tried to make this video the other day and I got something completely wrong. So I thought I'd just get rid of it and start again. Because the Old Minster was in Winchester. So Winchester was the old capital of Britain. The Old Minster was in Winchester, and that is where loads of different old kings were buried, and ones that I didn't know about was just so-called King Canute. He was the last Danish king that came over here. If you've seen Vikings Valhalla, he's in that one. And then Athelstan apparently was buried there as well. This is all in the Old Minster. Now what I'm reading is that they're saying now that the Old Minster, before it moved to the New Minster, which isn't Westminster, it's the New Minster in Winchester, was right next to it. They're saying it was like 50 feet away or something. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, they're saying that, yeah, they made this new one like right next to the old one in Winchester. And they were so close that the choirs could hear each other singing. And then when this one was demolished, they moved all the bones into little ossuary boxes, and they're now in Winchester Cathedral, I think. Apparently they're there. But the Old Minster, this is so complicated. The Old Minster, I think I'm pretty sure now was Hamsey, and it was Hamsey Church because it was Clove Show before it got its name changed basically to the Westminster. And it was the Westminster because it was Westminster is a metonym, and it's also because it's in Wessex. And then we have to start thinking about all these kings that were buried in the Old Minster. They all lived in Wessex, so it would have made sense to them bury them in either Winchester or in the Old Minster, which I'm certain now is Hamsey Church. And God, it's so great because there are all these other people there that I didn't know about. I'd never even heard of the Old Minster. I wonder how many of you have. And then there's all these links also then to the fact that apparently a lot of other, like say for instance, Athelstan was crowned in Sinningeston, which means Kingston. It doesn't mean Kingston by Thames, it just translates as Kingston. That's really important because then we've got Hamsey Church, you've got Lewes where all the Plantagenets were, that's where they were when the army came over. You've then got the fact that Harold Godwinson's son Magnus was putting the church beneath Lewes Castle, St John's sub Castro, after the Battle of Hastings. You got all these links, these incredible links that basically will tell you that Hamsey Church, Old St Peter's, was Clove Show. It is Clove Show, it's still there, that's the amazing thing. The really amazing thing is it's still there. And it's all been kind of lost and forgotten somehow along the way. Either lost and forgotten or purposely moved. But I think actually, probably lost and forgotten. People have mistranslated things, thinking of London as the centre of everything, when it just wasn't back then, you know, like it was a place still, obviously, you know, even from Roman times, Londinium was incredibly important, but not as important as Chichester, Winchester, and probably Hamsey. Hamsey, I think, was Ipwines Fleet, which is a lost Roman port. And that the reason that we've lost Clove Show is because everyone's expecting it to be on the or lost this place is because everyone expects there to be obvious signs of, like, how would you get there? And that's because the sea levels, it used to be a tidal lagoon, the valley that comes into Lewes, and it comes from Newhaven. Guess where it ends? This is the really important bit. If you just keep going from Newhaven down, where do you think you end up at? You end up at Hamsey Church. Like, literally, you cannot miss it, because it's you come to like a double bend basically, and in order to get through there to then go up into the further reaches of Sussex, I think they used to call that the midwinds, the middle winders. And the reason they used to call it that was because it was in the middle of what they considered to be their territory. It was like the middle winders, and they went all the way through, and the tidal lagoon estuary used to also connect up to another area, so it would have run in front of Caburn all the way through that valley. So it's like, once you start seeing these, you have to be able to see so many different things to understand really what I'm saying. And all the other links, we know that Aethelstan held his Witan there. So like, why? No one seems to have asked that. Why were the kings, why was King Henry III and Edward at Lewes Castle with their entire army when the barons came over, Simon de Montfort? Why were they there? And I'm saying it's because they lived there. And all of this has been just sort of like pushed to the side. And if you want some proof of that, you can find out that Hameline Plantagenet of the royal family married a Warren. The Warrens were the ones that got given Lewes when William the Conqueror came over. The Warrens then gave to William Desaix Hamsey, and then there's a missing tomb, the Desaix tomb inside Hamsey Church, which isn't mentioned in any of the documents that you can see now, but if you search back through, you can find all these old documents too, actually, that I found that literally state the Desaix tomb is in there, and that, I think, was the sort of like special canopied altar tomb, they call them. But anyway, I just wanted to clear all that up because this is so confusing for me. It's too much, because I'm trying to piece this together without even knowing about all these old places. So this is half of my problem, is that I'm coming at this from somebody that's really not known history before I started researching everything. So like my foray into British history started about 3 years ago, and I'm learning on the way. So, there are things that I'm getting wrong, there are things I'm getting right. I just know that Hamsey is, or Old St. Peter's Church is, such an insanely incredible place. I know that. And then I'm now trying to work out why that is so, and how that's been lost. And once you've got so for me, it seems that Hamsey, Old St. Peter's, is the key. That's the key. Once you understand that, and then look at everything from that key perspective, trying to find the locks that all fit into that key, you can start seeing that it joins everything together. All of history, all these different stories, which I've put out, all these different things. It's all there now. Like, everything is out there for people to work out. I just don't think their brains can process what I'm saying. And I think also what it comes down to is that when people learn history, they tend to learn like one thing. So they'll learn like Roman history or medieval history or Anglo-Saxon history as a single thing. And unless you can kind of see what comes after and before it, you can't link any of it together. It's so like all these scholars that are super knowledgeable regarding like one particular subject, it's kind of okay, but unless you can see, it's like having one piece of a jigsaw puzzle, and then thinking you know the whole puzzle. It's like, it doesn't work that way. You have to know the whole puzzle, and you need the key. You need the key, which is like if you're doing a jigsaw puzzle, it's like being able to see the box, and then you're like, oh, okay, right, I can start putting these pieces in. But I think that's part of the problem, that people are so sure of what they know from old books, and a lot of the old books are made with assumptions and ideas of assumptions. For instance, like they say that Closho must be in Mercia, and then it's like it should be, it could be, it probably was, and now everyone just thinks it was, and it's like, and that occurred to me, like, so how would you get to Mercia from the south coast? How would you do it? And you have to travel through Wessex or Sussex or Kent. You have to if you're coming in on the south coast. My guess is that the Mercian capital was Lewes, and for some reason it's kind of like, I think it's partly because it was like Danish and Swedish, and like, it was all of those kind of Scandinavian countries came in, settled there, and it was really theirs for a very long time. And borders are another thing. So when we look at maps, you look at kind of like Wessex, and you find that London on some of them is right at the top corner. On others, it's not even in Wessex. And then there's all these like, other tribes I'd never heard of above Wessex that kind of, they were like the old Roman tribes I was reading about the other day. The Hwicce, I think they were. Hwicce, I think. And once you start understanding, there's no real clear borders back then. It wasn't as clear as people make out on maps. It's like, obviously, you've only got certain amounts of people. You don't like have a wall around your boundary. We had Hadrian's Wall and we've got Offa's Dyke. And that's something else I'm thinking about. It's like the amount of people they had back then. I'm wondering if Offa's Dyke, where's that information come from that he built it? Because it seems to me like they just wouldn't have had enough people to do that. It makes more sense to me that the Welsh would have done it themselves in times way past. Just like a whole load of Saxons coming over on boats, and then they can build this earthwork that stretches from one coast to the other. Doesn't seem like feasible to me. So where's that information come from? I'm just really interested in this stuff. And yet, I put this stuff out, I send this to different historians, and I think I've had one response. People just will not answer my questions, which tells me that either they don't know or they haven't got the information either. So all what they have got is old information that they've taken as fact, when really most of it is just opinion. Anyway, massive ramblings, but if anyone's interested in this stuff that I'm trying to do, eventually I'm going to get proven on this. I promise you. Even if it's like after I'm long gone, it will get found out that I'm correct about this. I promise. It's like I'm not. What would benefit me? Why would I bother trying to convince everyone of this if for 3 years, and I wouldn't have written a book about it if I wasn't sure. Think about that, and think about then what I'm saying as genuine incredibleness. And any one of you that gets to know about all of this stuff way before anybody else even cottons on, which will probably be years still, knowing the way the world is and the stubbornness of people. But it's just too incredible. So if you get a chance, go down there and get to see it before it gets completely common knowledge. I guarantee you, it's one of the most special things. It's just insane. It's so great. Anyway, much love to everybody, and I'll just sort of try and clear some of that up, and I'll get back to you. I'm reading the old Beowulf manuscript. There's whole cool things about Gwendolen there, and I just read Alexander the Great. So in the Beowulf manuscript, there are other manuscripts, and there's this incredible story, all written in Anglo-Saxon, about Alexander the Great. And it's amazing. It's like his travels through India. And you can't work out how much of what he's saying is true, because there's some descriptions of things in there and you're like, yeah, whatever. But there are other descriptions of things in there. They were attacked by a beast with 3 horns on its nose, and it's like, well, that was obviously a rhino, and you're like, okay, this is cool. They didn't know that then. And then they talk about the snakes and everything, and obviously it's all new to them. But then they end up in these weird places. But who's to say? From what I've learned from reading Beowulf and that, everything seems to come from some level of reality. It's not everything. There's another book that's in there before it, and it's obviously like a tale of boasting. If you go to the lands of the East, there's just these people with 15 foot high and they're 10 foot wide and their faces are like spades, and there's all these different stupid things, and it's it's almost like a kind of the best liar of the Anglo-Saxon time came in and was like, yeah, I've been all these places and this is what I saw, and everyone's just chewing up. It's like their version of fiction, and they probably really enjoyed that stuff. But it was also just, no one could disprove it back then. No one knew. So it's there were people that are 50 foot and hairy. Yeah, of course. This guy said there was. Anyway, it's getting a bit long now, but much love, everyone. Take care. Bye.